Galera, a Digital Foundry trouxe uma análise sobre o teste que eles fizeram em cima de Phantom Blade Zero. Como a gente está acompanhando esse game, a gente está cobrindo esse game. Esse é um novo gameplay, né? Embora seja ali na mesma sessão que as demais pessoas testaram, é um novo gameplay, são gameplays aparentemente deles mesmo, né? E eu quero estar vendo junto de vocês quais são as considerações, porque esses caras são especialistas técnicos da parada, né? E eu quero ver o que eles têm a dizer sobre a versão que eles jogaram, se tá tudo ok, se tem algum problema, se precisa melhorar em algo e qual foi a percepção deles ao jogar, né? Então, bora lá. O link do vídeo original vai estar aqui na descrição, lá no finzinho, caso vocês queiram ir lá também, tá? Bora lá.
Gamescom 2025 is now very much over and has been for a couple weeks now, but there was one game I got to play there that I wanted to talk a little bit more of because in many ways it was very impressive, but in other ways there was definitely some issues. I'm talking about Phantom Blade
Ixi,
Zero.
houve alguns problemas.
Phantom Blade.
Opa! Aqui a gente já vê a tela inicial do jogo, olha lá, New Game, Settings. Caramba, mano, é bonito demais, né, mano? Puta, esse jogo tá bonito demais. Vamos lá.
Phantom Blade Zero, or as they say in Norway, Phantom Blade. So I only got to play this on a high-end PC. Alex just observed me playing this on a high PC.
Yes.
Nossa, que
And that's why
louco,
he's
hein?
here to talk about it with me.
Yeah, this is one of the games I was looking at another product while you were playing this one originally, and then I kind of joined in at the very end to watch you playing it. And yes, it's a pretty interesting looking thing, and we're going to talk about it.
Yes, indeed. And apparently I was like one of two people to actually finish the demo. At least share the whole thing here.
Amazing.
And as you might
Metido. Ele foi uma das duas únicas pessoas que terminaram a demo, caramba.
guess from walking into
Como
it,
assim?
it's very much a Souls-like.
Right.
There's
Tá.
definitely some differences, some of which I've probably forgotten, but the core action is, you know, you're this dude, you've got your healing items, you've got light and strong attacks, you've got dodging and parrying, all that good stuff. But it is very specifically designed to showcase the more Chinese-style blade ballet, if you will, a form of martial arts. That's
Legal.
not the actual name, but they put a lot of effort into choreography and sort of creating these very smooth, fluid
Nossa, mano,
animations that
muito
feel
louca essa finalização.
realistic and true to sort of like classic martial arts films and classic Chinese films.
Definitely.
And I'm going to say they pulled it off very well. The character animation is indeed top tier. The flowing cloths, just the movement. It's a gorgeous game in motion.
Yes.
So that is to be said. And the game actually starts in sort of a rainy castle area, and you're able to explore this area, making your way eventually to the boss. So yeah, it is pretty much what I thought it would be, and I think it plays extremely well. But then there's the tech side.
Right.
And so obviously, being that we played this at an NVIDIA event, this was running on a high spec.
Nossa, que lindo, velho.
Take that, like others, it was probably a 5090 powered PC.
I think so. I think almost every single PC there, other than the laptops, was 5090 powered because, you know, NVIDIA wants to show off the best of the best of the best, sir.
And they did.
And they do. And here, the demo, the video you're
Eles
seeing
jogaram num PC de última geração com uma 5090.
curiously, though, at 1440p. I think that's the recording we have here, right? It's limited.
That's what the monitor they were using at that station.
Right.
They were like 1440p high refresh rate panels.
Ok.
True. So that's what you're seeing right here. So it is not technically, in terms of resolution, the best you could get out there, but it does appear to be using one of the latest versions of DLSS. And technologically, this game's kind of interesting because it's like both following the pack as well as doing its own thing, right, John? Like it is Unreal Engine, but at the same time, it doesn't appear to be using Lumen or virtual shadow maps. Based upon what we can see on screen here, as well as the press release leading up to the game's full release, the game appears to be using Unreal Engine, I think maybe 5, with ray traced shadows and ray traced reflections. And you can see that in the footage here. So whatever they're doing for the global illumination or direct lighting appears to be more of a, I don't know, like a classical UE4 style. It does look like baked lighting.
Pô, tomara.
The rest of it.
Yeah, that's my guess as well, as the lighting definitely looked baked. And this is a challenging scene for that because it is not one full of very bright direct light.
Right.
So it's sort of like an ambient overcast scenario. That means you rely a lot on indirect lighting. So which can be baked out very well, but
E isso não é ruim, tá?
there's a significant
Se os caras estiverem entregando essa qualidade na Unreal Engine 4, cara, é o melhor dos mundos. Porque a gente não vai ter os problemas de desempenho, performance que a 5 tá trazendo, né?
of storage space, and as a result, you often see light maps sort of like toned down in terms of clarity, but also holes in them and issues. And
Right.
yeah, you definitely see areas that feel like they should be properly shadowed that are a bit glowy, as
Definitely.
is often the case with light maps.
Yeah.
But I can't say it looks bad or anything. And
Mas não tá mesmo.
presumably, when this does ship on consoles, especially, that should at least allow them to hit higher frame rates
Oh, definitely.
without sacrificing the visuals. So, like, I think the recent Black Myth Wukong Xbox port, specifically on Series S, really showcases what happens when you build a game around
Caramba.
but then you don't actually use it.
Yeah.
Because just turning it off, there was no real proper fallback, and the results are ugly. Where here, obviously built with light maps,
E se eles não estiverem utilizando,
it does still actually
perfeito.
look very good.
Yeah, and the shadows particularly do look really great. They don't break up that often in this demo. Yeah, they're great. The reflections, interestingly, I mean, maybe this will all be tweakable in the final product, but they do only seem to appear to apply to things like puddles and whatnot, or bodies of water. Whereas, you know, it could technically apply to some of the like rougher materials, but maybe for performance reasons, it's not doing that because it is very expensive to do that. And generally, at least in UE games, it's been extremely expensive to do that.
Yeah.
But
it is fully adjustable, of course, right?
Yeah.
But as we've seen, like with your recent Metal Gear Solid Delta tests, changing the roughness value, while it does look awesome, can have a serious impact on performance,
Yeah.
even on high-end rigs. So,
Definitely. I was watching this footage, and another thing that I was really curious about, because it is using Unreal, but I was like, are they going to use Nanite, or what are they going to use? So I've been watching through this footage, and one thing I noticed is you do see traditional LODs on the plants, but when running around the environment, I don't know, John. I don't think it's even a artifact of your footage, but I was actually having trouble seeing level of detail transitions on the opaque geometry here. I don't know, maybe
Right.
a fine-tooth comb through the footage could reveal it, but I don't know. Maybe this is actually using nanite. I'm not exactly certain.
So you're right. It is difficult to say, and I noticed that as well. That there's no outside of the foliage, where we know early UE5 stuff couldn't use nanite for foliage.
True that.
The actual more like solid scenery does not seem to showcase visible LOD transitions much at all, if any. But as we know very well, that doesn't necessarily mean they're using this virtualized geometry system, right? Like you look
Definitely
at
not,
Doom: The Dark Ages, they're not using anything like nanite. Their own they did not do virtualized geometry, but they just did very, very carefully placed LOD transitions in like extremely, like very carefully designed maps to avoid any sort of like visible or minimize the visible sort of LOD changes.
True.
So we know it can be done. And that's what makes this interesting, because like you look at Wukong, you know, Black Myth Wukong, and that was definitely like a game where they're like, okay, we're going to use everything that Unreal has to offer.
Mm-hmm.
And they did. And that did come with a pretty serious performance cost, due in part to that being older,
Com certeza.
of course,
Yeah.
which was much slower. This seems to have taken a different approach. In fact, by picking and choosing which RT effects are in use, it almost feels like an Unreal Engine 4 kind of generation game.
It does. Yeah,
Right?
I'd agree with that. Hopefully, though, with the benefits of whatever UE5 brings to the table in terms of
Right.
being more multi-threaded, we'll have to see all about that when the game comes out. But John, you were playing this live. What was the performance like? I know you were on a high-end rig at 1440p, but what was it like experientially?
Interested to see how performance ends up being, because this one did have a few little minor stutters, and the frame rate was not perfect, but it was also kind of uncapped. And actually in this footage it looks a little bit worse than it does in person, because everything at the show was recorded with NVIDIA Share.
Right.
So, you know, like the built-in recorder, which if you're at a different refresh rate than whatever, you know, than like 60 hertz or whatever they were capturing at, you end up with some frame persistence issues. And I think we're seeing that sort of exacerbated here.
I agree. Yeah.
But I mean, I really can't, for an in progress, in development game, it's hard. You can't judge anything, and I'm not going to do that. I'm just going to say it played fine on that.
Legal.
Certainly,
Se a impressão final foi rodou bem, é isso que importa, tá ligado?
console, since we know that it's it's not it's not a given.
No.
I keep thinking back to Black Myth, but
It ain't,
again, that was
yeah.
using all the UE5 features, and boy, that didn't run great. I'm hopeful that that they've made these choices specifically to avoid that.
Yeah.
But I
Yeah,
will say,
possível.
like, visually speaking, I love how this looks. I think this is a very handsome game overall. The amount of just granular detail in the scene is really nice. It's the kind of thing you see here, like, man, even though From Software has great art direction, like, if only their engine chops were like anywhere close to this. 'Cause,
Yeah.
like,
The detail is here is very high. Just even like looking at the cobblestone but beneath everyone's feet, it's like they've got all this layering going on there, like the various depth differences, like split up by puddles. There's barely any place like that in a From Software game in terms of detail.
right.
Yeah, it's just I really do wish it was like that for them too. But here they do seem to be using the Unreal Engine to its fullest to maintain such perfect depth and stuff like that.
And that's something I love about this modern generation of games, and what some of these designers are able to do is essentially they've eliminated the tiling effect.
Yeah.
Where, you know, you see like a flat surface or like a wall or a floor or something where it just sort of like repeats over and over again, and your eye immediately picks up on it. You're like, oh man, that does not look natural to the eye. Where here they've made sure that every single like inch of the game world has its own sort of unique look to it.
True that.
Pô, que legal.
It makes it look super detailed, lived in, and old, if you will. Right.
Yeah.
So, running down here by the sea, you see like every single floorboard, just like warped and moving in different direction, like nothing
Que legal.
layered at all.
Ao invés de colocar uma coisa só, né? Uma camada só, né? Entendi o que ele quis dizer.
I love it.
It'll be interesting
Maravilhoso.
to see, though, in the end, when we do get our hands on the final product, what aspects and which version of Unreal this is using, because it does look pretty unique. And it was actually the second game we saw at that NVIDIA booth event that was using Unreal 5 in a non-standard way with its own custom work in it. We also saw Black State, another game that, you know, doesn't use Lumen, uses its own ray tracing technology, actually, and manages to run really well as a result in terms of like high frame rate. And this maybe will be following a similar route. We've seen some pretty cool work from Chinese developers over the last couple of years, and this is looking to be something we'll definitely have to highlight on the channel when it does come out.
Right. There was also Cinder City,
Yeah.
which was a Korean developed game, which I had some fun playing it, I have to say. But what was interesting is that they told us in the presentation at the beginning, like, oh, this doesn't have any ray tracing in it, but it will.
Oh,
I was
yeah.
like, oh, like no ray tracing. And I was like, so then I sat down to play it. I'm like, wait a minute, they're using like lumen reflection here. And I'm like, even if it is the SDF reflection, that's still like a form of ray tracing, right?
Yeah, it is.
So I'm like, wait, you guys are using the lumen here, like at least lumen reflection, like that is ray tracing. It's like, oh no, there's no ray tracing in the game.
Yeah.
I'm like, but there is.
Yeah, there's this monopoly on words. It's not very cool, actually.
So that was another nice looking game, but not as nice as Phantom Blade. Which, yeah, even though we're seeing a ton of these types of like Souls-like games, I would say this one plays a bit differently overall in that it's like if you took a Souls-like concept but married it with more, I don't know.
Tá. Eu já entendi a pegada aqui e até o momento eu gostei do que eu ouvi, viu, galera? Basicamente, né, eles estão dizendo que o jogo, embora apresente, né, um ou outro probleminha ali de frame rate, inclusive, né, ele falou tal, cara, não é algo absurdo, e o mais legal de tudo isso é que nem eles sabem que Unreal está sendo utilizado aqui. Eu jurava que isso aqui era um Unreal Engine 5, cara, de tão bonito que tá esse jogo, né? De tão realista, e parece, os caras são técnicos, né, velho? Pela análise deles, cara, não é a Unreal Engine 5. Talvez a Unreal Engine 4 em sua totalidade. A gente sabe que a Unreal Engine 4 faz pedradas, né? Se você jogar, por exemplo, um Mortal Kombat 1, você vai ver que aquele jogo inteiro é feito na Unreal Engine 4, né? Cara, eu gostei disso. Gostei pelo fato de que isso com certeza vai deixar o jogo mais leve. Não, espero eu, né? Que não tenhamos nas versões de console os problemas de compactação, né, de compressão por conta do peso e esse tipo de coisa, obrigando, né, você a usar o FSR bendito, que junto da Unreal Engine 5 o resultado nunca é bom, né? O PSSR ainda tá gatinhando, então, se não... Galera, aqui eu só tô jogando no ar, eu não sei se não teremos mesmo, tá? Mas se não precisar utilizar esses recursos de compactação, de compressão que existem hoje no mercado, porque, querendo ou não, eles vão trazer, né, uma... a própria palavra diz, né? Compactação gráfica, né? A gente vai acabar vendo vários artefatozinhos, esse tipo de coisa. Se não precisar, puta, cara, eu já fico 2 vezes mais feliz com esse jogo do que eu estava. Imagina você jogar esse game numa engine leve, né? Porque querendo ou não, a Unreal Engine 4 ela é mais leve do que a 5, óbvio, né? Por vários motivos. E a galera já sabe trabalhar melhor nela. Talvez por isso o jogo esteja muito bem otimizado e com esse gráfico bonito. Cara, se realmente isso for uma verdade, se confirmar uma verdade, eu fico feliz. Tá? Você que é técnico, você que é desenvolvedor, né? O que você diz sobre isso? Por favor, né? Me ensine. Eu não entendo nada. Eu vou comendo pelas beiradas conforme os outros vão me ensinando, tá ligado? Mas você que entende, você que trabalha com isso, ao seu olhar, você concorda com a opinião que eles deram? Realmente o jogo, aparentemente, né? É um jogo que não foi feito na Unreal Engine 5? Cara, eu não sei. Só sei que tá bonito. O capricho que eles estão tendo aqui é muito legal. Tanto que ali naquele momento que ele falou, né? Que a gente tá ali próximo dos barcos ali, na praia, a gente vê... Na doca, né? A gente vê madeira por madeira. Não é só um plano, né? Colocado, não. A impressão que passa é que foi colocado pecinha por pecinha. Esse tipo de detalhe me ganha, cara. E por mais que eles tenham falado que a iluminação desse jogo, ela poderia ser melhor, né? Pelo menos foi isso que eles deram a entender, né? Que geralmente, se estivesse usando a Unreal Engine 5, a iluminação poderia ser melhor em ponto X, ponto Y, em tal ponto ali o celular fica brilhando mais do que o normal. Cara, pra mim tá um espetáculo. Sério. Eu prefiro 1000 vezes um jogo mais leve, um jogo mais responsivo, do que uma iluminação ultra foda que acabe pesando demais no resultado final da performance, do desempenho do jogo, né? Mas isso sou eu, né? Da maneira que eles estão mostrando aqui, já tá absurdo, cara. Olha, tô bem curioso pra ver mais do game. Gostei de ver esse gameplay. Como eu falei, né? Embora fosse um gameplay da mesma demo, eles mostraram lugares diferentes, cara. Eu não conhecia esses lugares que ele tá passando aí, sabe? E legal, legal pra caramba. Espero que vocês tenham gostado também. Deixem as suas considerações, as suas opiniões. Por hora, os pontos que eles disseram ser negativos, pra mim não desabona em nada, cara. Ainda tá da hora pra caramba. Vamos ver, vamos ver. Logo, com certeza a gente vai ter mais novidades e gameplay também desse jogo. Ainda tem alguns eventos pra rolar, né? A gente vai ter a Tokyo Game Show, depois a gente vai ter a The Game Awards ainda esse ano. Pode ser que esse jogo volte a aparecer com mais novidades. É esse jogo, cara, que eles falaram que ia anunciar a data ainda esse ano? Bom, não sei. Depois eu vou dar uma... vou dar uma olhadinha agora, peraí. Ainda não tem, né? E é esse mesmo, cara, que disseram que ainda vão anunciar a data esse ano. Então, eu penso que só tem 2 grandes eventos pra isso acontecer, se forem mostrar em eventos também, claro, né? Mas pode ser que eles mostrem simplesmente do nada, assim, divulguem, enfim. Bom, a gente vai estar de olho. Qualquer novidade, claro que a gente vai falar sobre isso. Beijo no coração, tamo junto, até a próxima, galera. Valeu!